those super crummy maraschino cherries and muddling that in old fashions. You stop it. You stop it right now, or I will find you and I will throat kick you.
Oh, what is this? Taken 3? Yeah. I'm like, I feel like this.
I have a very special set of bottles, and I know how to drink them.
The one and only Mr. Matt Rehwoldt.
What up?
How's it going?
Good. Kid Cadet, Danica, Janelle. You know what I mean? It's great to be.
It's mate, right? It's mate.
Yes, it is mate.
Nice. Okay,
Good day.
Good day. It's we can't do Australian accents on here because people get very mad. We've had Australians like write in saying angry letter. I mean, not actual letters, but they're not.
Oh, the silent M in Matt. Oh, it's at. I see.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. We are so excited to have you.
Hell yeah.
Virtual platform. You got a hell yeah. Okay.
Ooh.
We'll take it.
Oh, hell yeah.
There you go.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect.
Well, of course. So one of the reasons that I was really excited to have you on is because we know that you have a history of stage combat in your background. In terms of your acting experience and things. So, and I wore my t-shirt just for you.
Hell yes.
So I am also an avid stage combat enthusiast and workshop taker of certain things. So my first question for you for today is, what has been your favorite weapon to train with?
Ooh. Well, first, I'm going to come back at you with a really quick question. Do you know and my mentor in stage combat taught me this. Do you know the best way to win a knife fight?
Don't be in one. Oh.
Run away. Nobody wins in a knife fight.
There's that. Yeah.
So actually, to be fair, knife fighting was one of the most interesting ones. It probably wasn't the most fun, but when we did dagger and knife combat, and my instructor's whole thing was, he goes, this is not like rapier and dagger or like small sword epi style thing, like very precise points, targets, all that stuff. Knife fight, you're just looking to gut each other, stab it, and everybody gets sliced. It's dirty. You're punching, slicing, trying to stab, like it's just knock down, drag them out. So it was very interesting. But I gotta say, my favorite one was quarterstaff.
Really? That is one of the only ones that I haven't had a chance to work in. So I'm really excited for that.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. And for anybody who doesn't know, when I say quarterstaff, basically is kind of like bow staff. It's about a 6 foot long stick. Yeah, big long stick, usually done with 2 hands. And I remember because I did a final when I was getting adjudicated for quarterstaff combat, and me and this is in college. And me and the other student I worked with, shout out to Eric Rehwoldt, who's he works in news now. We did a scene from Lord of the Rings where the 2 wizards from the first one where they fought each other with magic. So we did all the choreography, and then we basically asked to can we kind of just do an ending with magic? And it was actually, we did this whole thing where I fought him off, and then we did a trick where he grabbed my staff. And so I did this thing where I slid it on its end across the stage, and he caught it. So it looked like he
cool.
Force pulled it. And then I started taking bumps on the stage because he gave me the double whip, and I took a back bump, and then he whipped me again, and I flip bump, and then he whipped me again, and I threw myself off stage, and that was the end of the scene.
That's really cool.
It was so much fun.
So what you're telling us is you're a wizard.
I was a wizard, Harry, for about 5 minutes.
It's not a wizard. Wait, who are they in Lord of the Rings? Are they elves?
I mean, Gandalf is a wizard.
He's a wizard, for sure.
Okay, I just wanted to. I was like, I got.
There's a lot of things in those books and movies. Yeah, not just wizards and people.
That's fair. Oh, people are saying you're.
That guy's going to be spamming your chat with things, so you can cut him off from super chats anytime you want.
We are prepared. Okay, so
thanks, Trez.
Is there a film or a TV series that you would want to do combat for? Besides Lord of the Rings, obviously.
Yeah, besides, I mean, it's a cliche one, but given all that, I mean, Game of Thrones would have been one of those shows. I mean, the huge battles, the sword fights. I mean, there's some magic going on there too. I mean, to be able, and like, I know of course it's all green screen, but like have interactions with dragons, maybe like. So I mean, I know that they're not on anymore, but any show in recent memory that would have been the one. It just would have been a smorgasbord of awesome like sword combat.
Yeah,
Vikings is still going strong.
Oh,
yeah, Vikings is a good one too, for sure.
Actually, I have a couple of friends that work on that.
Oh, really?
Combat, actually, yeah.
Hell yeah.
So, were you like a start to finish Game of Thrones guy? Like you made it through the whole thing? You did it. Okay.
All the way.
And I liked the ending. I feel like I'm one of those like rare breeds because that's what we got, and so that's what I was like. This is what we deserve. Were you happy with the?
So, like, I think it was, and spoiler alert, it's been 2 years. Screw you people. What do you call it? I thought it was okay. I thought most of the season was pretty good. And then it kind of, to me, it did kind of crater. So here was my thing. And I like, it's tough because I like Daenerys's character trajectory. And like, I love the tragic fall of her at the end. I like the idea that she was kind of this heroine, freeing slaves, being like the exact opposite of her whole family's bloodline, and then kind of succumbs to that history, to that madness kind of thing. As a storyteller, I like that. Yeah. I like that. Oh, that just no, you're the last one that can do horrible shit. Please don't. So the audience is there begging you, please don't, and then you do it. It's like Brad Pitt in Seven when he shoots John Doe. You're just like, no, please, you're better, be better. No,
right?
Crazy. Well, we're actually going to do the rest of the stream in Dothraki, so I hope you've been practicing up, right?
I didn't major in it.
You didn't.
Like some people can.
Klingon only.
Okay. Is that like what's in the box? Are people like really like? They're majoring in Dothraki? That's interesting. I
don't know if it's major, but I know it's offered at college as a course, and I think you can even minor in it or something. Yeah.
Okay.
Rad.
So, and I think Elvish from Lord of the Rings as well is offered in some
that
colleges.
one I know for sure is.
Yep.
And I think in a couple of places Klingon still gets offered.
Yeah. I heard about that too. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I can barely speak English, but at some point in time, maybe I'll circle back and learn another language on Duolingo, which I think actually does have Elvish on it.
Oh my God.
Does it? Oh,
yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
They teach you some weird phrases. Look out for Duolingo. So we're also curious, because, of course, we got to move into the wrestling world a little bit. So curious about how, what was the most important element for you from taking all the stage combat stuff, and what did you get to apply to the wrestling world?
So that's a really good question. And, that's part of why I kind of focused on that. Cause I always knew I wanted to be a wrestler. Went to school for acting and everything. Cause I love that. But I also thought, hey, this will help me be on, TV later on. This will help me be a better showman and stuff if I do get to wrestle. And then stage combat, I kind of, hey, the more physically I can be in tune with my body, and also the better I can be at faking combat, like it would be good for something like pro wrestling. So while the physicality is very, very different, because wrestling is, we're born out of freaking circus people and everything. It's very kind of haphazard. It's still insane when you think about what wrestlers do. The idea of taking a bump, even in a ring that's kind of built for it. Like my teacher, and he knew I wanted to be a wrestler. It's just like, there's a reason you can only do it for so long. He's like 70 and he's still like doing Renaissance fairs and sword shows and stuff like that. He's like, because yes, there are ways you can do it and make it look good, but like, I'm not slamming myself into things. I'm falling carefully and in certain ways. And, all that. I'm like, in wrestling, you kind of just throw it out the window. But for me, the biggest thing was more or less, selling in between everything and the whole time. So like, because we would always he would get really strict on us. We're sword fighting or whatever. Maybe you get like a nick somewhere in the fight. Somebody nicks your leg or whatever. And then you go on to the next piece of choreography. And if you forgot that you got cut, he'd be like, stop.
Yes, wound tracking.
Why are you walking like that right now? What do you mean? I was doing the thing. Like, yeah, but you also just got cut. So give me a little limp, give me something. Or if somebody punches you in the face, go back to your face after a set of choreography or whatever. Like ting, 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 boom, break. Go back to whatever hurts. Grab what hurts. Shake it off if you have to, kind of thing. But that ended up coming back around in wrestling in a big way. They ended up, like at the Performance Center, we would talk about that all the time. Of like, hey, what's happened to you? You've been getting beat up for 5 minutes. Don't forget that when you start running a comeback, kind of thing. Yeah.
Unless you're Brock Lesnar, then forget it all.
Well, then just a mutant and nothing hurts, and you're Thanos. So whatever.
Fair. Okay. Well, we usually the usual question that we ask our fellow theater nerds is what their favorite play is, but we kind of want to know if you have a least favorite musical or play. A least favorite.
So, no, because I think everything. So I'll trade that for a terrible musical choice that I was a part of. Okay. And I was just talking to a friend about it who was part of this production with me. So, because I think a lot of there's almost every music, and I'm sure there's some that I haven't come across that are just terrible, but. So for me, though, when I was in high school, when I didn't get into acting until my senior year of high school, the last year of high school. So I wanted to be a part of everything. I did this really great play, my first ever, that was called Translations, where I had to have both an Irish and British dialect. And I was like the lead in the show. And so I had to switch between them simultaneously because it was like a period piece where I was literally translating old Irish into English. And so talking to the British people, I had to talk that. I have a really good British accent, and then switch it over and tell them, be like, "Hey, how you doing? What he's trying to tell you is this: that you're all fucked." Basically.
Wow.
So, but I wanted to do everything. So I wanted to be a part of the musical, even though I don't really sing. Yes, I don't sing, guys. I fake it all the time. You believed me? You're all fools. So I can't. I can't really sing. So I tried out. I was like, maybe I can get an acting bit that doesn't really sing and I'll be in the chorus or something. So the musical is called Flower Drum Song.
Oh, I know it very well.
So, okay, good. You guys know it. I'll explain more for those who don't, but I think you know where I'm going. We were a suburban middle-class school that had a theater department of 95% white people.
No.
And this play it's a really fun musical, but it is a completely and utterly and an inherently Asian story. It's about Chinese immigrants coming to San Francisco. And this is also, 15 years ago, people are a little bit less thoughtful. And so, I had makeup on that was probably not okay, was problematic. And we had wigs that were probably problematic. Okay. And I say this too. The craziest thing was we had one Asian American student who was heavily involved in theater and was incredibly talented. He was a good singer. He could dance and everything, and he didn't even have the lead.
Oh no!
This other white kid who was kind of like the big singing star of the school was the lead, and everybody else in the show pretty much was white. It was like, this is I got more than 15 years ago. This was like 2005. Okay. And I just don't, they thought it's a charming musical, which it is. And there's a lot of really fun songs and stuff in it, but man, you should not have there were some people doing kind of accents, and so it was so cringeworthy. And I looked at, I'm like, and we didn't, especially the kids didn't know. It was like, all right, we're just doing the musical we're told. Let's just, but man, I'm like, how did our director that chose that?
Yeah, why did they pick that?
Why?
Why Flower Drum Song for? That's very interesting.
Yeah, and so that's one of my most cringeworthy things. Looking back on it, Shaggy, no, bro, I've told you. Thank you. See, what would I tell you?
Wow, it's interesting because Danica and I feel like, and that's something that Danica is especially, you talk about inclusion in the theater world all the time. And I know that's something Danica is very passionate about is, putting the correct actor or actress in the correct role.
Right about it yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, it's just wow. I mean,
and the fun thing and the crazy thing is, and I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry.
No, you're not at all.
But because we were just talking about that. I'm like, I think there's a great plethora of works where you can race swap, gender swap. You can do like I love. There was a Glengarry Glen Ross that was all women. And I'm like, okay, that's something because there's nothing inherently in that story that says it has to be men, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think
unless you're David Mamet.
We won't tell him. So there's stuff where you can play with that. You can you can have an all black cast for something that maybe we've always seen only white people do and stuff. As long as the story is not, as long as it's not inherently about something. But that's Flower Drum Song is an Asian story. It's rooted in Asian culture and all this stuff. So it doesn't make any sense to flip that one out. So we could have done anything else.
You could have, but now we know. Like, I feel like maybe in high school, I don't want to say I wasn't woke or like aware of it, but now I'm incredibly aware of it. I completely understand. And Tony wants to know if you could be in any Broadway musical. Well, like you said, you're not necessarily a musical guy. So any Broadway show or musical, what would it be?
So I always had the one role I thought I could do because it was one of the few and again, I'm not as well versed in musicals as I am in other things, but a role that I thought I could actually do because I have a deeper voice. And my favorite roles all ended up being like the tenor roles, and I can't hit that worth a damn. But I always thought I could be good at Javert in Les Mis. The song Stars. I love, and I think he's an interesting character, and again, it's kind of in my register, and I love the show overall, and I was one of the first musical soundtracks that I really listened to when I was getting into theater, and so I had the songs on repeat in my head and everything like that. So that's always kind of been my go-to answer for that.
I love that.
If Russell Crowe can do it, you can do it.
Oh God!
No, well, could he do it? That's the question.
Someone thought he could, so he sure did it.
He got the paycheck.
It could have been worse. It could have been worse. Yes. But could have been a lot better.
And it was. We had Corey Taylor on here a couple months ago, who's it's so funny. I love that a lot of people say that their dream roles are in Les Mis. And so Danica and I collectively took on the role of Javert, and we had Corey sing Jean Valjean, and it was so oh my God. What a moment.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
it was so
fun.
So we wouldn't want to put you on the spot, but I mean, I feel like Les Mis, so tried and true, beautiful.
If I could hit the notes, Phantom. Oh, come on! Ooh. That's basically what I want. I always wanted to base half my wrestling persona on was the Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah, that's very interesting.
Yeah, a tortured, twisted artist who's just been kind of driven mad by the culture around him, and feeling like he's been rejected. And nobody understands him. Oh my God, yeah.
Did you ever try to implement a chandelier? And they're like, absolutely not, Matt. No chandeliers.
You do the half mask.
I did do the half mask once.
Yeah.
I did it once, and I don't remember if they told me to not do it again or if I was just like, I don't know if it looked good enough. It was kind of a cheap mask. I got it it was Battleground 2017. I was on the kickoff, and I had a cape and that I had made in Madrid. But I was so proud of this outfit. And then I had the George Seurat painting pants. I had a handmade cape from Spain that I got when we were over there for a European tour. And then I had a half Phantom mask.
Awesome. Well, you can always bring it back.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. Okay.
I like that.
Well, outside of wrestling, what kind of fandoms would you say helped to shape you when you were growing up?
I mean, so I was a shy kid. You know what I mean? There's still part of me that's like a shy kid at heart. And I think that's true for a lot of performers, actually. You put them on the stage, that's where it goes. That's where all that goes. But then you take them off and you put them in a dinner party, and it's like, hey, can I just go home yet? Super introvert, stuff like that. But for me, I love video games and everything like that. Comic books, like a little bit, but I was never like, my friends were huge comic book people. I would say the biggest thing for me was like my brother got me into like punk rock.
Ooh.
Like emo and punk rock. From like during the 90s, like that kind of era.
The good era.
So like that was what, and because I played in a band and stuff in high school, middle school into high school, and that was a huge part of my life. So like that was probably for a while. Then I got briefly into like, I was a movie geek for a long time. I mean, huge, like obsessed with foreign film for a little while. Again, my brother was a huge influence on me. Like he got me into like foreign films and like French directors and Japanese directors and stuff like that, Korean films, and all that stuff. So that kind of just like cultural stuff. And then, like I said, punk rock was kind of my core where kind of it all started.
What's like you're having a day and you're like, I'm going to listen to, what song do you put on to like get you going?
Favorite song in the world is oh God, what's the name? Aside by the Weaker Thans.
Okay.
Oh shit.
That was
okay. All right.
That was like, and to this day, anytime I put it on, whether it's just the nostalgia factor kicking in or whatever, I love it. It's kind of an upbeat melody. The lyric, favorite lyrics of any band ever in general, like their lead singer and writer, I forget his name, John something, but it's such good poetry set to like really fun, like kind of indie emo-ish kind of rock, but it's so well written. But that song in particular, just there were a couple lines in it that hit a chord with me as like a teenager that just like, I was like, yep. Even though I didn't quite understand all of them, it's like, yeah, somehow that just makes sense to me. And ever since, it's just stayed there.
I'll have to listen. I can't say I'm familiar, but I will definitely check it out.
I do recall the name of the band, and I'm surprised that I had forgotten about them.
Yeah. Canadian. They're like Canadian. I call them Canadian folk pop punk. Because they're not quite like punk. They're not that heavy, but they kind of have a couple songs that are a little bit like, kind of like emo punky, but they're almost like folk music. It's like indie. It's like, indie rock. I don't know. It's really, really good. It's okay.
Really, well, I will definitely check that out after my Dothraki lesson. I will.
Yes.
Well, speaking of growing up, and we know that you grew up in Chicago, so curious if you could dish any favorite hidden gem little locations in Chicago.
Hidden gems in Chicago. Well, it's like one of those things. The thing with hidden gems is sometimes you want them to remain hidden. Like you don't want the tourists, to come and find them. That said, I will say, there's a great bar / restaurant, and then their drinks are better than their food, but their food's pretty good. They're good burgers, stuff like that. But it's incredible whiskey selection, because that's something else I'm passionate about. It's called Twisted Spoke. It's not too far from me here in Chicago. It's like a biker bar that's been there forever, but they've just developed this reputation. They have this huge whiskey list, whiskey wall, and they do like half price Wednesdays and stuff like that. It's what I like about it too is there's a lot of really great whiskey bars in Chicago. One of them is Delilah's, which is like a world famous whiskey bar. And that one is also very not pretentious, which I like, but it's also just much more famous. It's like written about in every whiskey magazine ever. But this one is a little bit more low key. And again, very non-pretentious. It's not this like super dark, high end, like leather all over the walls, like super, which those places are cool too. Don't get me wrong, but you're also probably going to be paying $40 for
premium,
an ounce of whiskey. So, but here it's very chill. It's very low key, but it's still just really good stuff. That's probably one of my favorite places.
I'm hearing in my head now The Doors, like, show me the way to the next whiskey bar. Oh, don't ask why. Danica, play that whatever instrument that weird one is. There we go. Okay, so we weren't entirely sure, but we figured since you are from Chicago, we're not sure how controversial it is, but are you like a deep dish pizza kind of guy, or do you prefer like New York pizza? Like, where does your pizza fandom lie?
So this is generally, and this has changed and ebbed and flowed, but for the longest time, I'm not really a pizza fan.
Okay.
Wow, you react a lot better than most. Most people are like, who's not a freaking pizza? Who doesn't like pizza?
Danica. So this is why.
For a
really?
long time.
Yeah.
For a very long time.
There you go.
Not a pizza person.
Yeah. So like, and I guess at the end of the day, I don't hate it. Like, I never take a bite of a piece of pizza and I'm like, spit it out. But I say that I've never craved it. Some people like crave, like, I could just go for like a whole thing. I'm like, I've never felt that way. I have other cravings. I've never been like I crave pizza thing. It's never on top of my list.
Okay.
This one.
Oh, me? Are you pointing to me? The girl with the pizza tattoo? I don't even know where it is. I don't even know where it is anymore.
That's a different novel. That's a different series of novels. The girl with the pizza tattoo.
Oh yeah, there she is. And I got the avocado, so I got the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? Like equal balance, equaling it out. So
yes.
So then I guess follow up to that would be hot dogs. Chicago hot dog.
Yeah, no, I like it. Again, I'm not seeking that out. I will say I've come around to pizza more in the last couple of years. My wife, huge pizza fan, loves pizza. So she's kind of just by having it. I'm like, some nights I'm just like, yeah, okay, I'll get it with you. Like, I don't want to cook, so we'll get some pizza. And like, I've found some really good ones. But getting back, yeah, that's fine. Smile. I'm sorry.
Now they're frowning.
Yeah. So. I know I do like deep dish. I'm not all the time, but there are so many great options for deep dish here. My favorite is Lou Malnati's. For those who have heard of it, I think they have the most like fresh taste. Like they're like things like their tomato and their veggies that are in it are like just seem fresher.
Fresh.
It's not the most decadent one. For that I would say Pequod's Pizza. For those who are familiar, they do it in the cast iron skillet. They like bring it to your table. Pull it out with the spatula, and it's just dripping, like stuck to your plate. On the right occasion, it's pretty damn good.
Yeah. May I suggest Little Caesars, delicious, delectable, just
high end
Italian style garbage.
It's funny. Right now I live in the same neighborhood I lived in during college. Okay. Which was not by design at all. And so now it's funny because I go to the same Jewel, which is our grocery store here that I went to in college. That's right. That I went to in college. But years ago, now there's like a Lowe's next to it. But before there was a little, like one of the last Little Caesars pizza before it kind of started coming back a little bit, but when they were on the outs. But there was one Little Caesars pizza in the strip mall next to and I never went to it. I just always remember being like, those are still like around. I'm going to go get Papa John's.
Oh.
And then
that has kept them in business for years.
Yeah.
You guys crazy bread.
Yeah. I love crazy bread. That's what my poor trainer now is watching this and he's, oh no, I don't like any carbs. What do you know? Terrible.
Right.
Now people are making fun of me for it. Oh, don't judge me. Anyway, we can move along.
Only it's the Chicago and New York people will be the ones who judge you. Everyone else won't care.
Okay.
All right. Well, let's move on to another very, very important aspect in your life and many of our lives: whiskey.
Yes.
So we want to talk about straight shooting and wrestling with whiskey. So the first question here is going to be: which brand would you recommend to someone who's looking to get into whiskey?
So,
and I guess sort of follow up within that, American, Irish, or Scotch.
So for me, I mean, my bread and butter is American whiskey, bourbon primarily. That's kind of where I got introduced to everything through that community and through that style. That said, since then, I've grown to love it. They all bring their own thing to the table. You know what I mean? Japanese whiskey does too. South African whiskey, Australian whiskey. Almost every country has some form of whiskey.
Yeah.
And if not whiskey, they have a spirit that's native to their country. But Canadian whiskey is pretty good. So for me, oh yeah. For me, bourbon is the bread and butter for me. And so I always recommend start really simple. If you've never had it, go with the basic brand. Go get a Jim Beam white label. It should be $20. Evan Williams is another really good one. If you can find the Evan Williams white label one, there's a black label and a white label. The white label one is about $20, but it's bottled in bond, which is a whole designation from the government and everything, which is making a comeback lately. And it's actually, I like it. It's kind of a sign of quality. And that's a really nice one for like 18 to 20 bucks. Maker's Mark. If you like something a little bit softer too, that one's a little bit easier to get into because it's not as harsh because it's a wheated bourbon as opposed to a rye bourbon. And so it's a little bit softer. Some people say it's a little sweeter. I don't necessarily agree, but I think it is a little bit easier going. And so like start simple because look, I'm not going to tell you to go after some obscure or like really great high-end brand or something that I really like that I've found through because you don't know what you like yet. So get a basic idea for like what does bourbon taste like, or what does the whiskey of your choice taste like. The only thing I would say if you want to get into Irish whiskey, there I would avoid because sometimes the really common brands really rough. Jameson, regular old Jameson, I'm sorry, is so rough to me. I think it's so rotten. If you're trying to like learn to appreciate whiskey, avoid Jameson.
Okay, that's interesting. I mean, I think that almost goes like with our follow-up question, which is like, what is the worst whiskey cocktail that you've ever tried?
Oh, I just asked this to my YouTube community.
Oh, shit.
No, that's so funny because I was thinking about making like a video on like the worst whiskey cocktails because everyone talks about 10 best this, 10 things you should absolutely have. And I'm like, let me talk about the absolute dog shit things. So, so for me, I'm usually pretty discerning when I look at a menu and everything. So I would say 9 times out of 10, I end up pretty happy because I purposely select certain drinks, and I always think, I'm like, well, depending on where I am, I'm like, do I want the complicated cocktail or do I want like to keep it simple because I don't think they're going to do it well kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like sometimes if it's like a really nice high-end place and it's like, okay, I'm going to try this weird looking cocktail because it's probably going to be better than I think. But if it's a place where I'm like, maybe it's a little sus, let's just keep it like really simple so they can't mess it up. That said, so for me, and I'm going to get nerdy and purist kind of thing here. When somebody, and I've had this at a lot of like airport bars, you order an old fashioned and they take like the bright red maraschino cherries and muddle the ever loving crap out of it. And they make an old fashioned with it. Because you do not muddle in an old fashioned. You're doing it wrong. There's no, in a regular, that's old fashioned. That is wrong. I'm sorry. I know there's a lot of ways to do things creatively, but to this whiskey dork, it's wrong. And you're hurting people and you're being a bad person. So bartenders out there who are muddling fruit and especially those super crummy maraschino cherries and muddling that in old fashions, you stop it. You stop it right now or I will find you and I will throat kick you.
Oh, what is this? Taken 3? Yeah. I'm like,
I have a very special set of bottles and I know how to drink them.
I love it. Well, just circle back to a question from Dresden. What whiskey would you pair with a Chicago-style hot dog?
Well, he's asking that for a reason. Again, I told you he's going to spam. He's one of my mods, and I appreciate his work very much, but he's snarky. So that actually, I think, is hearkening back to I actually did a whiskey tasting competition this past fall with a company called Bardstown Bourbon Company. And it was awesome. And I made it to the finals, and I actually finished in 3rd place out of the whole country.
What do you have to do in a how does that? Yeah.
So there were different competitions. So one, you had to make a video saying why you should be in the competition, right? And they got like 500 entries, and then from there they select people to go to the regional because they're in like 12 different states right now. So each state basically had a regional. So I got selected for the Chicago, Illinois regional, and then we did like a Zoom thing like this, but it was a tasting. They sent us blinds, unlabeled samples, and you had to identify them as close as possible.
Oh my God.
Wow.
So it wasn't like, tell me what this is. It wasn't just like, you have to tell me exactly what this is, but it was like, all right, sample 1, you have to tell us, is it over 100 proof or less than 100 proof? Sample 2, you have to tell us, is it, try to tell us, is it wheated, rye, Scotch, or Irish? Okay. Sample 3, you have to say, is it older? Do you think it's older than 10 years or younger than 10 years? Things like that. And so then I passed that. And then the final took place at their distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. And it was a whole day series of events. One of them was a challenge where we had to pick out faults that were chemically added to whiskey because there's different kind of like chemical faults that you can kind of smell and taste if they're in a whiskey. And then we had to do like a blending challenge where we blended a couple of different whiskeys, and the master distiller picked the best one. And then we did like another blind sample that was just like, here, just tell us everything you think you know about it. Age, proof, recipe, all this. But in the middle, they had a pairing challenge where we met with this woman who's a really great writer for the whiskey community and everything like that. And she gave us each, you had to pair a whiskey, like she put like 10 whiskeys on the table, and you had to pair it with a food that they gave you, and they based it on your region. So like for me, it was a Chicago style hot dog.
Nice.
That was a big roundabout way of getting to this question. But so they're like, here's the thing, Chicago, everybody else I feel like got similar. It was like, oh, like Oklahoma steak or something like that. But a Chicago style hot dog, if you've ever had it, it is a hot dog with absolutely everything on it except ketchup and onions, I think is what it is.
And the bun too, very important bun.
Oh yeah. And so there's so much on there. Like I chose something really simple. I'm like, it's salty, it's vinegary, it's like savory, all this. I'm like, it's such a punch of flavor, between the meat, the bread, and all the relish, all the stuff on it. So I picked like regular Maker's Mark, and because I'm like, it's light, it's low proof, it's sweet, it'll kind of counter. Thank you, Vince. There's yes. Yeah. So that was kind of my thing. I think I scored kind of like in the upper middle. I didn't like win that competition, but I thought it made a lot of sense because I wanted something kind of counterbalance it, light and sweet to kind of counter heavy, salty, and just like a punch of flavor.
I like don't judge me, the Little Caesars girl. I've never been much of like a whiskey person, but I'm telling you what, I want a Chicago hot dog and Maker's Mark. Like I am sold. Like
there you go.
I'm down.
Give it a shot.
I think literally. I will. I think I will. I absolutely think I will. Do you have any? Oh, sorry, Danica. I don't mean to take your question, but do you have any rituals before you drink?
It depends on what is going to be happening, what I'm doing. If it's just sitting down on the couch with the wife watching some TV or watching a movie, no. It's just it's pour something good and relax. If I'm doing a tasting, I don't have like a crazy set ritual, but I have, whether it's one or multiple things that I'm trying to taste, I have my little flight of glasses that I'll lay out in front of me. And it's not a ritual that I do before, but I guess it's the way I taste it. And it's kind of the standard thing, which is to nose it, to taste it, and then you want to assess the finish of it too. So I take the longest thing I do is I nose. It's my favorite part of it. I mean, it's just, I would never do it in this cup, of course, but I mean, it's some, sitting there, smell. What do I get in there? Like, is it super high proof? Yeah. Am I getting a lot of wood, oak? Is it old? Am I getting a floral, fruity rye kind of spice, or am I getting something that's a little bit more, caramel forward, a little bit lower in that kind of content? All these kind of things. There's a lot you can pick up just by smelling it. Wow. And I'll spend 10 minutes sometimes on one glass just doing that.
The way you talk about whiskey is like so beautiful, like it's really inspiring. Honestly, I wish I was that inspired about anything ever.
Shaggy's right too.
Sniff your own skin. Okay.
So if you're ever, and this goes for anything really, if you're ever smelling something where you're like just trying to figure like, what the hell is that? Whatever. If you're getting like too overstimulated, smell your own skin, because your pheromones and everything kind of neutralize, bring your nose back to neutral. So if you're like, even if you're smelling, you're cooking and you're like, you're putting your head in the pot and you're like, I can't tell if this is, sweet enough or whatever, spicy enough, whatever it is. And you're just like, okay, I'm too in it. Go out, set yourself back to neutral, and then go back in.
That's interesting. And make sure you shower before you.
Yeah. Otherwise, you'll be smelling something different.
That's very interesting. Danica, why don't you ask? My mom's saying that she used to carry Chicago hot dogs in their restaurant. I didn't know that. That's news to me.
There you go.
There we go. I'm learning something from my mom. Danica, why don't you ask a wrestling question and then we'll get to the game?
Yeah. All right. So, of course, we do have to get to the wrestling at some point. We had to get there.
We'll dabble a little.
We're curious if there is a type of style of match on your bucket list, one that you've never done that you'd want to participate in.
I mean, my wife will kill me, but like, man, I want to do a ladder match so bad. They're awful, but they can be so good. And like the creativity that can go into those, I love. And while I love the spectacle of something like, for example, like a Money in the Bank, and a lot of places do a lot of like the multi-man ladder matches or multi-person ladder matches, excuse me. And again, you can have a lot of creativity, we're ladder to ladder bridges, and they're building forts basically with ladders. And that's fun. It's a hell of a spectacle, a hell of a car crash. But I love a good one-on-one ladder match. And I also, it's like, if you can use one, maybe two ladders and just tell me a story with that, I think sometimes it's so much better. And I think you can tell a really good story. I think a lot of people see stipulation match, and I'm talking from like a wrestler standpoint, and they go, oh, what are all the spots I can do with it? And that's a part of it. But I'm like, make them, it's the same thing as like a, one-on-one wrestling match, a grappling match. Tell me a story. What are you doing? Are you working a limb? Are you working a body part? Are we going back to something that's happened in our, feud or whatever that's going on that we can play with? We keep a story of you keep trying one tactic and the person keeps countering on it until rather than just car crash, which I think is what a lot of people think. Where can I go through the ladder? How can I go off the ladder? How can we do that? Tell me a story. One of my favorite ladder matches in semi recent memory, actually, and I encourage people to go back and watch it, is John Morrison versus Sheamus from TLC. Like 7-8 years ago, maybe. I don't even remember.
Okay.
Maybe even 10 years ago. It was but they worked the leg. They worked Morrison's leg the whole time. The whole thing. There wasn't a bunch of like throw him off the ladder, slam him through the ladder. It was all Sheamus just trying to put his leg in the ladder, which makes perfect sense. He can't climb. And then John, being the athlete he was, would find ways to keep climbing and jumping on one leg, and he sold it the whole time. And I just remember being like, oh my God. They're doing like a submission style match where he's just focusing on his knee, but it's with a ladder. I thought that was so cool and so simple, but it told a really good story. So yeah, long way of just saying, yeah, I've always wanted to do a ladder match.
Fair. I'll have to go back and rewatch that. One more wrestling question. Maybe I'll ask yours in a second, Vincent. I wanted to know, and you kind of briefly mentioned it with the Phantom, but was there ever a gimmick or a storyline that was pitched to you, but it just never really came to fruition?
No, nothing that was pitched to me, because they didn't pitch anything to me. It was, nothing was ever done for me, really. Anything that happened was either happenstance or something that I had worked and to try to get over or get approved or whatever, or get by. Yeah, nothing was ever like, hey, we've got this thing for you. I was never that guy in anybody's eyes. So, there was a lot of stuff I wanted to do with the Phantom of the Opera, or the kind of like what I always like to call like the tortured artist kind of thing. I had several ideas on how to do it and everything like that. And that's actually what I pitched to Vince McMahon one of the few times I got to sit down one-on-one with him and pitch him something. And that's where we got the 2 weeks where I cried on TV for no reason, was coming out of that meeting, coming out of me spending 10, 15 minutes laying out this character who he's driven mad by his inability to create a masterpiece. His whole drive is to create a masterpiece. And that masterpiece can be anything. It can be winning the title. It can be taking over Raw. It can be burning down WrestleMania. I don't know. It can always change. That's the beauty of the character. It can always evolve. But I'm like, yeah. So I'm like, nothing is ever good enough. And every time he beats someone, I'm getting a step closer to creating, the masterpiece of the WWE, of the artiste in my own image. But when I lose, it's just driven me mad. Like any artist who messes something up, and they rip their painting apart, like they make one mistake and they throw it out the window, and they're so intense. So I laid out this whole thing, and I talked about Phantom of the Opera and all this stuff. And he's like, so you're an artist. So it means that you're very emotional, right? And I'm like, yeah, I suppose. What if you cry? something happens and you get emotional until you cry.
At least he didn't ask you to puke, you know?
So. Yeah, I guess puking might have been more interesting, but I was flabbergasted, and it's the boss, and the one thing I always heard is like he'll listen, but at the end of the day, he's going to do what he wants to do. And so I was like, okay, I don't know where this is going. And I was just like, maybe, sure, kind of thing. And I walked out of there, and then the next week, I lost the match. I cried in the ring. Jericho put me on the list, and then you never heard from me crying ever again. So that just gives you a little idea of how things go sometimes.
It happens, but okay. If it's okay with you, Matt, we're going to play our game of Would You Rather. There is no wrong answers here. And if you want to elaborate on why you picked something, fantabulous. If not, we'll move along to the next one. Danica, you're going to start, right?
Yeah. All right, here we go. Would you rather have a drink with Ron Swanson or have a drink with Ron Burgundy?
Oh my God. So normally I am notorious for doing like would you rathers and stuff like that and analyzing them to the nth degree. And I will I'll spend 20 minutes analyzing why I would make a choice. This one's a mulligan. Swanson all the way. One of my favorite characters of all time on one of my favorite TV shows of all time. Yeah. And like on top of the character, I like Nick Offerman for kind of who he is as a public persona and everything like that. So hands down.
All right. Should we take a moment for little Sebastian?
Bye, bye, little Sebastian.
Meet you in the satisfaction. All right. Here's the next one. Would you rather verbally spar with the genius Lanny Poffo or battle rap John Cena?
This is a good one. So I'm not a great rapper. Especially not, I think if you gave me a little bit of time to come up with something, I can maybe come up with something kind of clever, like off the cuff though. Like I'm not a good freestyle rapper. Let's put it that way. And so if it were straight up that way, I think John would obliterate me. Okay. That said, if we're like, I don't know how existential we're getting though, but if I'm doing something with John, that's big spotlight. So that's just business side of it, right? That's just business. I don't care. I would lose to John Cena if it meant I was in the main event of Raw kind of thing. You know what I mean? But verbally sparring with the genius, I think as a straight talk, I think I can talk circles around almost anyone. That's how confident I am. And so I think I could do it. So if we're talking about who I could beat, I think I could beat Lanny. I don't think I could beat John in a rap battle. But which would I rather do? I think I'd rather battle rap John Cena because one, I like him and I respect him. And I think it would be a lot more fun.
Okay. I appreciate. Wow. Yep.
Yes. Told you.
I appreciate all that. I love it. I love it.
All right. All right. Next, would you rather switch from whiskey to tequila or switch from whiskey to rum?
Rum.
Ooh. Okay.
So tequila. I'm getting more into tequila a little bit. If you really want to just make it super easy, you would have put vodka because vodka is the devil's brew. No, so there's certain tequilas that are actually really good. Like some good, like aged añejo tequilas are actually really, really nice. And there's some really nice sipping tequilas out there. But rum, I think, is far more interesting. I think the flavor profile is far more interesting. There's some really great craft rum out there that's excellent. I have a friend who bottled some rum from, where is it? I think it's a Guianan. I had this 16-year Guianan rum at cash strength, and it's like chocolate. It's so good. It's like smoky, musty chocolate, which sounds weird and bad, but it's sounds good.
Lovely.
Sounds like it would be great with the Chicago style hot dog.
Oh God,
so bad.
You'd ruin the rum with that.
Vincent wants to know if you had a chance to try the Rock's new tequila.
I have not had Terramana yet. I have yet, because here's the thing. I don't really like silver tequilas. There are some that aren't bad, but I like something that's aged. I want like a little bit of barrel character on it. I'm a big brown spirits guy. So I always see the silver at the grocery store, at the liquor store. I have not come across, I think they both have an añejo and a reposado. I don't know which one I've seen, but I haven't really come across those a lot yet. And I don't drink it enough to even like totally pull the trigger on buying one yet, because like it'll probably just sit on the bottom of my liquor cabinet.
Fair enough.
But next time I'm at like a bar or restaurant and I see it behind the bar, I'll probably try it. I've heard good things about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. I'd like to try it as well. Maybe, possibly. I don't know. Okay. Here's the next one. Would you rather have to sing every thought in your daily life or have to wear your gear out in public to formal events?
Gear. I mean, the singing thing. One, like I told you, I can carry a tune. I can carry a tune, but like I don't feel confident in my singing ability. Truly, like on a really good. And so to do it, and it's exhausting. Anybody who's ever sung, like on professionally or like on a stage, or even like the goofy thing I was doing for WWE, it you put a lot of power behind it. It takes a lot of energy out of you, and so like to think every thought. Oh my God. And people would hate me. Out in the gear. If I'm out in the gear, people avoid me because they think I'm a weirdo. And I like being alone. I'm an introvert. I like my space. So you're just walking down the street in Chicago, you're just going to get that. And they're going to stay away. Whereas if I'm singing, people will straight up hate me and probably throw things at me. So yeah, gear.
Here it is. All right. Next one. Miss Danica.
All right. Would you rather share a drink with Frank Sinatra or share a drink with Alfred Hitchcock?
Oh, Hitchcock is so interesting. And like, I'm more of a film geek than I am like a music geek. And I've heard so many interesting stories about his directing style and like the minimalism and stuff of it and everything. Oh, it would be so fascinating. But I feel like as a whiskey guy, it would be like a sin to not say drink with Frank. I mean, he literally made Jack Daniels what it is. Did you know that Brown-Forman, which is the parent company that owns Jack Daniels, they own like Woodford Reserve, they own a bunch of different companies. But they literally had a person on staff whose job it was to keep Frank Sinatra stocked with Jack Daniels whiskey at all times. They were his personal liaison to say, whether it was at home, on the road at his shows, backstage, there was a guy from the company whose sole duty was to make sure Sinatra always had a bottle of Jack Daniels at his beck and call.
Well, I would take that job. Yep. Yeah. Danica, like, we're available. I'll just get the time.
I'm here. I'm ready.
Let's go.
Bring him back.
Yep.
All right. Here's the next one. We got a couple more. Danica, is this one me or you?
It's going to be you.
Okay. Would you rather try whiskey from every country or wrestle in every country around the world?
Oh, God. All right. I mean, this is a good one because this is an ultimate, like both. So here's the thing. I can cheat here, though.
Okay. Cheat. Go ahead.
If you book me in every country around the world, I'll stop at a bar and I'll try the whiskey from every country in the world. So you loophole it, baby.
Yeah, loopholed it. All right.
Or no, all right, but no. Granted, if you were to tell me like, hey, you could wrestle in every country, but you weren't allowed to try the booze, right? Let's put it that way. I would still, as much as I love whiskey, especially if this was like starting now kind of a thing. I have a lot of whiskey. I've tried a lot from around the world. Certainly not everything. But I think travel and actually being in the cultures of these different countries and just seeing people in places from around is more important for growth and just as an experience as a human. I think it would be far more fruitful than being able to try every whiskey from around the world. As much as I love it, and as much as that breaks my heart a little bit. But given the options, I travel is so important, and just being able to see and learn from people all over the world, I think is clutch.
Well, don't worry. We won't tell the whiskey.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. We got 3 more. All right. Next one, Danica.
All right. Would you rather, ride the red line during Lollapalooza or have to work at Navy Pier during 4th of July?
And now you have the opposite because they're both no. It's the ultimate.
They're both the worst.
This is, oh, man. How long am I on the red line for? How many stops? The whole line?
Let's say you're going let's go from Addison all the way up to, you're taking it the whole way north.
Well, Addison's already pretty far north. So if I'm already that far north, but I have to take it from
all right. Well, then take it from downtown. Yeah, take it from
Especially like after the concert has let out. everybody's
Chicago
wasted.
Grand.
Yeah, like
All the way
everybody's
north.
just walked down from Millennium Park and everything like that. They're wasted. They're whatever. Oh, it's a shit show. I also, and working in Navy, yeah, same thing. Navy Pier is packed during the July 4th, all summer really, but especially those July 4th fireworks days. So I'll say this. I'll take the red line because unless you have like a really horrible breakdown and you get stuck in the tunnel or something like that, even if it's really, really crammed and people are awful, end to end, you can ride that thing in like an hour.
Yeah.
Whereas if you have to work a full shift at Navy Pier, even if it's a part-time, you're working, anywhere from 4 to 8 hours extended, maybe overtime because it's a holiday. I don't know. So I'll take the short, but probably a little bit worse option just for duration and just sit in the corner, try to get one of those seats in the very far corner that are its own seat and just like put my mask on and just ride it out until I get to my stop.
Okay.
And just a reminder for anybody who needs to ride it, if every other car is full and one car is empty, don't get on that empty car. There's a reason.
There's a reason.
Oh, God,
usually because someone pooped in it.
Usually.
Usually that's
okay. Well, okay, we got 2 more of these. Okay, would you rather, oh my God, travel back in time and attend an original performance at the Globe or perform at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival?
So Fringe Fest, I've never gotten to experience it. I've heard such awesome things about it. A lot of actually I've had several like theater and like circus friends and stuff who have gone and done stuff there. It sounds very cool. But I mean, God, how do you pass up time travel? You know what I mean? Like, especially to go back to the Globe. I mean, Shakespeare, whether like I would want to go find out and maybe meet the guy because I love meeting history. Because like, was this guy like he's godlike in the theater community for everything he's done? So 2 things. 1, the age-old question about any historical figure: were they an asshole? Like, is this really like well-regarded person? I just wonder, were they a jerk maybe? Because I feel like a lot of people probably were jerks, especially if they're really, really famous. You usually get that way by being a jerk to some people. You know what I mean? And then second, I got to find out Christopher Marlowe, William Shakespeare, who did what? Got to find the truth. And I would punch him until he told me the truth. So,
okay, fair enough. And we got a David Tennant shot. Are you a Doctor Who human, or
I'm not? I'm not one of those people.
Okay, no. That's okay. That's totally fine. All right,
I like David Tennant though.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I
think best Hamlet I've ever seen.
Yes.
I think Danica, we've met him in passing at like a convention maybe, but okay, here's the final one. We've made it almost. Would you rather wrestle against the first wrestler you ever saw live or wrestle against the first wrestler you ever met?
I'm trying to think of who those would be. Thank you for the Virgil picture.
Yeah, we love. Shout out to Virgil. Nothing but love.
I'm trying to the first wrestler I ever saw like live in person.
Yeah. Or maybe like a match or.
Yeah, like, because the first ever show I saw live, I didn't get to go. I never went really as like a kid, but my dad took me to Raw. Like, I want to say I was in middle school, like 2001, 2002. I went to Raw. I couldn't tell you who the first person I saw was, but for the sake of argument, maybe it was 2003. I remember seeing like something like Shelton Benjamin, right? Was one of he was kind of starting to kind of get rolling at that time. I think, God, people are going to yell at me in the chat. First wrestler I ever met though was, I'm trying to think, first ever meet and greet was WrestleMania 22. And I can't remember. It was in Chicago. So there were a bunch of meet and greets. I met 4 wrestlers. Who did I meet first? There was RVD, Booker T, Triple H, Shawn Michaels. I don't remember all of them. And I actually did get to wrestle 2 of them, kind of. I got to wrestle RVD, and I had a run-in with Triple H on a tour in Europe one time. But I didn't get to, of course, never got to wrestle Shawn Michaels. Although I did get to spend an hour in a car with him in England one time, which was incredible. So I get to wrestle against the first wrestler you ever met, probably, because let's just any of those 4 guys would be awesome. And then I actually did get to do that later on. I think RVD was the first signing I went to ever. And so I actually did get to wrestle him later on. So
that's awesome. Hell yeah. Well, you have successfully completed Would You Rather, and now we have reached the end.
Yes, Dresden, I was. That's true.
Oh, stunt ass.
Did he? So I told that story on my YouTube channel. I was basically an ass double for Shawn Michaels for the WrestleMania 32 intro video, the hype video. They brought a few of us from NXT to Connecticut to film as body doubles for famous moments in WrestleMania history. So like Big Cass played The Undertaker, and they just put him in a coat and everything, and just like a smoky shot of him doing this because he was tall. I think they had, I don't remember, we were talking about, I don't remember, they brought somebody in to be Stone Cold, and I don't remember who it was. Somebody bald, I don't remember who. They brought Chad Gable was Bret Hart.
Okay.
I think Big Cass might have been Edge as well. And they had like, again, just legs down, like jumping off a ladder. And then I was Shawn Michaels in the famous WrestleMania 12 tights, the yellow, the white and gold ones. And I did a couple poses in the ring doing the old thing. And they just shot it. And they used, the major shot they used was close up like of the pose, but right on the ass where it says "Birthday Kid." And it was so funny because then it's on WrestleMania there, right there, flash it across, and that's my claim. One of my claims of fame. I got my ass on WrestleMania.
Congratulations!
Literally.
Oh, that's huge! Wow, that is. I love that.
I mean, it's not that huge. It's like medium size.
average.
Yeah.
But well, before we do wrap this up, is there any final thoughts that you want to leave us with? I know we didn't even get to talk about your Twitch channel or upcoming events. There's a lot to cover here.
There's a lot going on. I mean, I thank you for having me and everything like that, of course. But yeah, guys, I'm around. I'm doing all kinds of stuff. I'm super keeping myself busy here. Straight Shooting is the podcast. I send whiskey blind samples to my wrestling friends, most of whom don't like whiskey, and I ask them what they think and what their favorites are, and we chat and BS in between. It's a lot of fun. I got episodes with a lot of people. Juice Robinson's on there. Matt Cardona's on there. Brian Myers is on there. Got new episodes with Tommy End coming out and the Iconics coming out. So yeah, really fun conversations, and it's fun whiskey chat, especially for people who aren't fans. It's funny to see their reactions as well. You can find that's on YouTube. That's everywhere podcasts are. And then, I do the Twitch thing multiple times a week. I'll actually probably be going on there after this is done. Twitch.tv, Drama King Matt. And that's the same thing on socials. Drama King Matt all over the place. And dramakingmatt@gmail.com for any booking inquiries.
Hell yeah. Well, this has been amazing. Thank you.
I guess
we're going to go over our upcoming guests real quick. So what day is it? Okay, so today's Thursday. Okay, so next week we have race car legend Mario Andretti joining us, which will be very interesting.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then
quite a smorgasbord.
Isn't it great? We're
You got Chumley?
Yeah.
You guys got That's awesome.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about it. Yeah, we have Mae Valentine from NWA. We have Lucas Rossi. We have, like you said, Chun Li. We have Casey Jost from Impractical Jokers joining us for his 5th or 6th time.
At least.
I mean, we're so excited that we still get to keep these going, and we're gonna keep going till the wheels fall off. Is that the expression?
Yep.
Sure. Yeah.
Yep.
Fabulous.
Absolutely.
Well, Matt, this has been an absolute honor. Cheers to you. Thank you so much. And hopefully we could do this again sometime.
Yes, please. I loved it. Let's go.
Yay! All right, guys. We'll have a wonderful rest of your week, and we'll see y'all on Tuesday. Au revoir, everybody.
Goodbye.